Today, we are back at Motorcar Portfolio, located in Canton, Ohio, to take a look at this 1933 Packard 1004 Super 8 Coupe Roadster. But before we take the tour, welcome to What It's Like. This channel is more than walking around a car with music. We do deep dives on all the cars featured. We feature the classics, vintage, some exotics, lots of orphan cars, and cars that are off the beaten path. If that sounds like a channel that you'd be interested in watching, subscribe. Hit the bell icon next to it to never miss a video. 1933 Packard. Packards are really confusing during the 30s. I'm going to try to break it down as simple and as cleanly as I can possibly break it down. They didn't really have a name per se. They were just Series 10. Packard offered three different cars, or models, if you will. Standard 8 was the Junior Series Packard, and it was sold with the numbers 1001 and 1002, many different body styles. The Junior Packards used an inline straight 8. It was a 320 cubic inch displacement flathead straight 8. It made 120 horsepower. Cars with the chassis number 1001 came with a 127.5 inch wheelbase. Cars that had the chassis indication of 1002 were built on a 136 inch platform. Senior Series was considered the Super 8. They had chassis indications of 1003 and 1004. The 1003 cars rode a wheelbase of 135 inches, and the 1004 cars had a 142 inch platform. They were powered by 385 cubic inch displacement flathead inline 8-cylinder, making 145 horsepower. And we'll get to the price and the specs and all of that later. So Packard, getting back to it, they offered three cars. They offered the Standard 8, which was the Junior Series Packard, and they offered two offerings in the Senior Series, or one could say the top of the line could be Super Senior. Anyway, that was a joke. But Senior Series was the Super 8, which was an inline 8-cylinder engine. Car we're featuring today is a Super 8. Packard also offered a higher Senior Series, Super Senior Series is what I call it, Packard V12, 446 cubic inch displacement V12, making 160 horsepower. The identification numbers would be 1005, and that had a 142 inch wheelbase, and they also offered a 1006, and that was built on a 147 inch wheelbase. This is a really important side note. So apparently one could change the body of the Super 8 with the 12, or they could take the body off of a 12 and put it on a Super 8 chassis. They are interchangeable, but you can't do that with the Standard 8 to the Super 8 because the Super 8 hood was 6 inches longer. It also had longer fenders. Other differences were the Super 8 came with a bigger straight 8, 385 cubic inch displacement versus 320 cubic inch displacement. It also made 25 more horsepower than the regular Standard 8. The Super 8 made 145 horsepower, whereas the Standard 8 made 120 horsepower. Another thing that you have to remember is this car was made in the early 30s, some of the most difficult years of the Great Depression. Companies such as Lincoln was bought by Ford. Cadillac was under the GM umbrella. Chrysler was the umbrella. And Packard did things alone until the 1950s. New president was inaugurated in March of 1933 in a Packard, which reinforced the position of Packard as the nation's leading luxury car brand. Super 8 body styles that Packard offered: 5-passenger coupe, 5-passenger sedan, coupe roadster, Phaeton, sports Phaeton, 7-passenger limo, 7-passenger tourer, convertible Victoria, convertible sedan, 7-passenger sedan, club sedan, and the most expensive body style was the 7-passenger formal sedan. Plus, one could just buy a chassis and take it to whatever coach builder you wanted to take it to. You could take it to Dietrich. Dietrich was Packard's body coach builder person back in the day. That's who did most of the body work. But if you didn't want Dietrich to do it, if you wanted Fleetwood to do it, or Fisher, or Briggs, or Murphy, you can take it anywhere and have whatever body you wanted put on the chassis. Let's talk 1933 Super 8 Coupe Roadster. It's built on a 142-inch platform. It costs $2,870, which would be equivalent to you spending $64,529.96 in the year 2022. Total production for Packard in 1933 across the 3 series, the Standard 8, Super 8, 12, was 4,800 units. Total production number for the Super 8 was 788 units produced over those 12 models that we just talked about. 12 body styles, I should say. Only 788 were produced back then, which is crazy. Features: 4-wheel vacuum-assisted mechanical drum brakes across the board. Didn't matter if you got Standard 8, Super 8, 12. It also featured 4-wheel semi-elliptical leaf spring suspension. The Roadster Coupe weighs 4,610 pounds. Some 1933 averages, because it was so long ago, the average household income was $1,550. The average house cost $5,750. The average cost of gas was 10 cents a gallon. The engine that was on offer with all the Super 8 models was the 385 cubic inch displacement inline straight 8. It was 6.3 liters. It made 145 horsepower at 3,200 RPM. Bore was 3.5 inches with a stroke of 5 inches. Compression, I've seen different compression rates. A lot of people say the compression was 6.0 to 1, and I've seen other sources say it was 7.0 to 1. Either way, that's not very high compression. Has 9 main bearings. It was fed with one single Stromberg carburetor, which was the downdraft type. All Packards came with the 3-speed select shift synchro mesh transmission. Door panel. Notice there's no armrest or door handle, some people call it. You could one could put their arm out the window in this car. Door handle to get out, window crank. That's what the window looks like. It's all trimmed out. So that's what that would look like with the window up. Obviously, it'd take on a whole different look with the top up, but we're not putting the top up. Before we move on to that part, check out these. These are side mounts. These are the spare tires, and they have this casing that has a mirror at the top of it. But not only a mirror on this side, there's a mirror on the passenger side as well. Moving to the button switches and knobs, all the way to the left-hand side controls the brakes. 1 through 4, different brake settings. It's sort of like how one can change regenerative braking on a modern electric car, but instead of the regen, it's how much vacuum boost one would like. Moving to the first gauge is the speedometer with the odometer at the top and then the tripometer at the bottom. Moving right, oil pressure. Right below the oil pressure is the starter button. 2 gauges in the center. Gas gauge is at the top, and notice the numbers, 0 to 25. That doesn't make any sense to me, but in the comment section below why that was. Right below it is the amp gauge. Moving right is the temperature gauge. Just below the temperature gauge is the lighter. Last big gauge is the clock. Just past the clock on the right hand side, that is where the ignition key goes, and it just turns on, and then you push the button, the ignition button, in the dash. Okay, this is how much space I have. Check out this. There's like 4 or 5 inches underneath the bottom of the steering wheel. It's a Roadster, so you don't have to really worry about headroom as much. There'd only be enough space for 2 people in this front part. There is a rumble seat, which we'll get to. This has his and hers glove boxes. So there's the glove box on the driver's side, glove box on the passenger side, ashtray here at the top. It's pretty cool. Notice there are 2 windshield wiper motors for each windshield wiper, so it's possible to just do the driver's side and not the passenger side. It's really cool. These, if you unlock those, there's one on each side. You could push the windshield forward. I'm not gonna do that because it's older and I don't want to mess anything up. All right, coming back down here, this is your air conditioning system, cowl vent. It has three different spots. That goes way up there. That's way further than my 52 does. So that's all the way open, and it takes the air from outside and blows it down at your feet, circulates inside. You don't need air conditioning with this. I've never used it in a 4-door car, but a 2-door car or truck that only has 1 seat in it, it's perfect. There's second stop, first stop, all the way. This car not only has the cowl vent, but it also has down inside here, it has the vents down here. I've never seen a vehicle that had both. So it's cool to know that they actually made cars that had both. So there's one on the passenger side and there's one over here on the driver's side to allow more air in. That was your air conditioning system. Here's the outside of the vent, and that's what that would look like if you ran with it open. I just want to mention how comfortable these seats are. When you sit in these seats, it's like sitting on the nicest leather couch you've ever sat on in a car. It's amazing. So check this out. I thought this was a toolbox, but it turns out that this is actually where rich people would put their golf clubs. And there's a light here, so if you're golfing at night and then you need to see to put stuff in here, but just check out how far that goes back. It goes clear to the other side. You can also see sort of like where the footwell is for the rumble seat. So that's really kind of cool. Just check out these Packard keys. Look at how those look. The rumble seat release is underneath this. I'm not going to pull it off because we just put it all back. But this is the rumble seat on here. And then you'd finagle your way into the rumble seat area. And notice the foot space that you have once you're back here. Moving up here, one could open these vents if it's a hot day to allow more air to the engine. Also, it gives it a really classy look. Some other cool little details. Notice how big this light is. It's huge. And it's not flat like this one over here. This one's completely flat. This one over here it has a crease here, and it's kind of like almost like the bow of a ship. Nice matching parking lights. Look at the horn. So this is, it's got 2 big horns. These almost look like truck horns. I always wondered what the back end of the side mount looked like, and that's what it looks like. That's how it stays on there without flapping around. I'm wiggling it and it's not moving. So just take a gander at that engine. Look at how beautiful it is. Okay, let's go to the exhaust side. Moving up to the exhaust side. Just check out how they did that. There's an exhaust on top and there's one on the bottom. Carburetor is also on this side. On to the pros and cons section. I'm getting all of these pros and cons from the complete book of collectible cars, Blue Chip Auto Investments, 70 years from 1930 to 2000 by Richard M. Langworth and the Auto Editors of Consumer Guide. On the positive side, the 12's great looks for far less money. Fine highway tourer. Excellent investment. It's a classic. Against it, scarce and increasingly pricey. A lot of car to handle. Sadly, they are trailered more often than driven. Thank you all so much for all the continued support. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like so more people can see this video in the future. On to Name That Tune. We'll set a meeting, get a sponsor, and collect some dues. And you can bet that we'll have our jackets on whenever we cruise. We'll get the roughest and the toughest initiation we can find. And if you want to try to get in, we'll really put you through the grind. And we'll get the finest cars. That's a 60s tune. That's all you're going to get. If you know the answer, in the comment section below, the first person to get it right with the name of the song as well as the group, first one to do that will have their comment pinned to the top of the comment section. Thank you all so much for everything. And till next time, toodaloo!